Good morning, everyone. Happy Elf Day. I hope everybody is ready for an incredible day of fun and elf magic. First, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, but then, after that, two amazing stories about elves. One about a little elf, and another one about, as we are in the middle of Hanukkah, we have Schmelf, the Hanukkah elf, to join us as well. So hope you have an absolutely amazing day. But kicking us off, a fifth grader from Mrs. Dubois' class, leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Here is Taryn Radford. Have a great day, everybody.
Hello, everyone. I'm Taryn. I'm in 5th grade, and I'm in Mrs. Dubois' class. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remove all hats and hoodies and place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated now. Thank you.
Hello, awesome readers. Welcome to Storytime for All Kids. Today's story is The Littlest Elf, written by Brandy Doherty and illustrated by Kirsten Richards. Oliver was an elf. He lived with his family in the North Pole. There were many elves in Santa's village, but Oliver was the littlest one. It was Christmas time, and Oliver was excited. This year he would discover his special job at one of Santa's workshops. He just needed to visit each shop to see which one was the right fit. At the toy workshop where his mom worked, Oliver tried to make cuddly teddy bears, but he got lost in the huge stuffing pile. "Oliver?" an elf asked. Oliver's mom said, "I think you're too little for the toy workshop. Why don't you try helping your dad at the bicycle workshop instead?" So Oliver went to Santa's bicycle workshop. "I'm ready to help," he said. Oliver watched as the elves added wheels and seats and handlebars and bells. But the tools were very big for Oliver's little hands. "Maybe baking is your special job," Oliver's dad told him. "You should visit your brother at the bakery next." Off Oliver went to the bakery. These elves made sugar plum cookies and candy cane squares. But when Oliver tried to stir the cookie dough, "Oliver, look out!" one of the elves shouted. He fell into a giant mixing bowl. "Sorry, Ollie," his brother said. "You're too little for the bakery. Maybe your special job is at the bookmaker's shop." Oliver arrived at the last of Santa's workshops, where his sister worked. The bookmakers there wrote amazing stories and drew wonderful pictures. "Can I help?" Oliver asked. "Of course," the elves replied. But the ink pot was kind of tough to reach, and the stack of paper was very tall. "Oh, Ollie!" his sister cried. Bookmaking was harder and messier than it looked. Oliver wandered through the North Pole. He was sad. Oliver knew there had to be one special job he could do, even if he was little. Then he heard the sound of hooves clattering at the stables. Inside, a herd of reindeer had gathered to meet Dot, the new reindeer. She was little, just like Oliver. Dot was very excited to help fly Santa's sleigh. She practiced for the big night by jumping and hopping and leaping, but she could not fly. The reindeer's mama gave her a gentle kiss. Dot was still too little. Dot looked very sad. Oliver wanted to cheer her up. He dug in his pockets to find a treat for Dot, but instead he found little trinkets from each workshop he had visited. Just then, he had an idea. Oliver and Dot used the tiny treasures to make ornaments, cards, and fun decorations for all the hard-working elves in the village. The littlest elf and the littlest reindeer filled the sleigh with their Christmas treats. They delivered the presents to all the workshops. The elves loved their special gifts. Soon, Santa came to see what all the fuss was about. He watched as Oliver and Dot made everyone smile. Suddenly, Santa had an idea.
"Oliver and Dot,"
he said,
"with your big hearts and great Christmas cheer, won't you be my very important helpers this year?"
Oliver and Dot had found their special jobs after all. But more important, they had each found a special friend. The end.
Schmelf the Hanukkah Elf, written by Greg Wolf, illustrated by Howard McWilliam. Up at the North Pole, covered in snow, you'll find Santa's workshop, as most of you know. But no one can do all that work by themselves, so helping him out is his army of elves. The most unsung elves of those who assist are the elves in charge of checking the list. They all work so hard down to the last elf, and the newest of them was a fellow named Schmelf. Schmelf didn't spend time playing merry elf games, but sat in his cubicle staring at names. His job was to check through Santa's list twice to see whether kids had been naughty or nice. Schmelf loved what he did, but as Christmas drew near, he looked at his list and he cried out, "Oh dear!" He'd found many children who had been quite good, but would not receive presents, though it seemed that they should. He ran like a flash to see the head elf, who smiled and said, Now, calm yourself, Schmelf. Of course you don't know, since you're still quite newish, but the kids on this list are actually Jewish. They don't celebrate Christmas, but that's fine, you see. They celebrate Hanukkah, their own jubilee. It won't be dear Santa who brings them a gift, but their mommies and daddies. Do you get my drift? Schmelf returned to his desk. His mind was quite shaken. Kids with no Christmas? He must be mistaken. So later that night, careful not to be missed, he snuck off to visit a house on the list. Schmelf peered in and wondered, could this be right? There wasn't a tree or a stocking in sight. Instead, he saw menorahs with candles so thin, and children were giving their dreidels a spin. There was Gelt chocolate coins wrapped up in gold foil, and latkes frying in pans filled with oil. Then Schmelf saw there were presents, one for each night. His elfish eyes gleamed as he squealed with delight. Schmelf listened as Mom told the Hanukkah story of the Maccabees' battle for Israel's glory. And though the brave soldiers won their great fight, their temple had oil for just one more night. But once they'd set the oil ablaze, a miracle happened. It lasted 8 days. Hey, now I get it, Schmelf said with a grin. Hanukkah's awesome. I'm totally in. He raced back north and went straight to the boss, the big man himself, good old Santa Claus. Schmelf explained his discovery, this holiday grand, and when he was done, Santa held up his hand. Good Schmelf, chuckled Santa, it fills me with joy to see how you care for Jewish girls and boys. It shows me that you are much more than a clerk, and so I will task you with this special work. Hanukkah is a time for family and song, for joy and tradition, it's where you belong. I've decided at Hanukkah you'll travel the world, bringing magic and joy to each boy and each girl. Santa gave Schmelf clothes of white and of blue, the colors of Hanukkah, that much Schmelf knew. And a sleigh that could soar straight through the air, with a Jewish reindeer by the name of Asher. Now you good Jewish kids, for 8 nights each December, Schmelf will come visit some years in November. He'll make sure your latkes are crispy and thin, your menorahs burn brighter, and your dreidels win. If there's one special gift that you'd like this year, tell Schmelf he'll whisper in Mom's or Dad's ear. He'll do what he can to nudge them that way, in hopes that the present brings cheers of hooray. To reward Schmelf and Asher for all their goodwill, you can leave out some gelt and a nice kosher dill. What a magical Hanukkah, you'll think to yourself. See you next year, Schmelf the Hanukkah elf.